I made a mistake on the last video. Well, one of the last videos that I made. I had said we don't see things for what we are. We see things for what we are. It was embarrassing to watch, but the thing that I, recouped it with afterwards was we see things for what we believe we are. We see things with our beliefs, not with our own eyes. And I saw the flub, I saw the whoopsie, I saw the, whatever you want to call it. And I immediately thought, I got to delete this video. That was the first thing I thought. The second thing I thought was, I need to redo this video. Maybe I can correct it, go in and somehow fix it or whatever. And then the third thing I thought was, I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be A-okay. And I know that you've probably had this moment before where you've seen something where you might have made a screw up or something like that. And I know that even calling it a screw up is a thing. We'll get to that in a little bit. However, I want you to take a look at the moments in your life or the thing that happened where you thought that you made a mistake or you thought that you messed up. Take a look at it. And what if it wasn't a screw up or mess up or mistake? And what if it was just part of the process? I know that many times we look at something that's a perceivable mistake and we say, oh, this can't be. I gotta throw this out. I gotta do away with this. I knew someone who was a writer, and they would have spines of notebooks, just in the two covers, and all the pages in between just missing. And you can imagine why. It's because they would write, throw it out. It was a continual process of just throwing out whatever they had written. And the obsession with perfection was so high and so intense that anything that was in front of them that didn't represent what they perceived as perfection, because that's really what we're getting down to, had to go. They had to discard it. And that process for that person was part of a bigger thing going on. However, in the context of them ripping the pages out of their notebook as they were writing, poems, plays, scripts, whatever it might have been, the point is that they never accepted the process. And even looking at that video that I had made, I was totally, immediately unaccepting of the process. I said, no, that can't be. I got to get that out of here. Many times we want this with a reputation. We want this with what we perceive as a clean slate or a sterling reputation. And the reality is we're humans. We burp, we fart, we cough, we have scars, we have broken hearts sometimes. We say things that we only mean in the moment, we don't mean it seconds from then. We move on impulse, we break inanimate objects and try to glue them back together again. We are a living archive of navigating our own journey. And as I said, NASA spaceships, they don't navigate space by the straight line that they're on. They navigate by how much off course they are. They're always course correcting, and so are you. And I want you to just take a moment to write down something you perceived as a mistake, but is actually part of the process. And when you begin to do this, you begin to create a list of things where you learn from some stuff. It's win or learn, really is what it is. And when you've learned from these things, then you're able to not only move on and say, this is part of the process, but you're also able to, here's the gold in all this, is you're able to have self-compassion, self-love, exercise it and practice it continually. When I was working as a paraprofessional, the people that were the toughest on themselves were the kids. The kids, I mean, and they would have moments of fits, absolute woe, anger, oh, I can't believe I colored outside the line. Oh, I'm a failure. And their tears, all these things. And it was this obsession with having to be a certain way or whatever the rules were that were given to them. And then also, it was a kind of a freedom. Talked about this in some past videos, like a childlike freedom, an imagination, a creativity, a whimsical, oh yeah, over there. Nobody played a game where, the floor is lava and they lost their mind because that part wasn't lava and that part is. It's imagination. They were making it up. It's not. It's you make it up as you go. Like it's literally flying the plane and building it at the same time. Like that's all it was, and it was so beautiful because you tag along with this imaginary scenario, and we're playing whatever in the classroom, but it at the same time it was this thing where the students could be entirely condemning of themselves, but then entirely forgiving of themselves, because they lived in a world where not a whole lot had predated the day of. It was hey, this is year 6 on Earth. What's up? Whereas adults, we can get jaded and calcified in our view of the world and say, well, this is year 26. Gosh, I should have known better by now. In reality, you will never know better, or to the extent that you walk a perfect line, that you walk this perfect line, because perfection doesn't exist. Humanity does. And progress will forever be over perfection. So when you begin to look at the mistakes or the course correcting, we don't even call them mistakes. Like when I'm on a film set and we have a mistake, a take that is a miss. It is literally giving to the final quality that you're going to get of the picture. That's literally what it is. You cannot get to that final draft until you flub up some of these stunts, some of these lines, the blocking. Oh my goodness. Blocking in a film is always forever going to be okay, take 16. It just keeps going. And you're going to have to get through those mistakes before you get to the take that you want and that you love. But you got to go through those to get there. And however many they take. I'm not saying you got to go through a bunch of them. You might be one take Jake for some of these things, not for everything. Even Cecil Fielder struck out every now and then. I mean, even Kirby Puckett struck out every now and then. Even Tom Glavine got a home run or a grand slam hit off him. This shows you how far back I used to watch baseball. But the whole point being is, I want you to look at some of the things you've deemed as mistakes in your life, but then look at them as just part of the process. Now, what does that look like? Okay? What does everything look like now that it's just part of the process? 2, what does your future process look like now that you're not entirely condemning yourself for a take 2, or a take 3, or a take 16? What does the process look like then? Because if you can look at the payoff in take 100, you will get there. If you got a 10-year payoff, you're going to get it. You're going to get it. It's just going to happen. There's no doubt about it. 1,000%, you're going to make it happen. And that's just a fact of life. I guarantee you will get it. Because when we would jump in, I'm helping out coach this young swim team, and the whole thing is, I'm having flashbacks to when I was on the swim team, and I'm like, oh my goodness, if I knew at the beginning, if somebody told me, hey, you will get to the place that you're trying to get to by this lap, I would say, hold on, how many laps I got to swim before I get there? This many. I could probably go back and count them up in some weird way, but I would say, okay, let's go for it. Or there might have been moments where I've been like, you got the wrong black student. I'm not about to do any of this. Because swimming is so arduous, but I look at the possibility in all of these athletes, and I'm like, whew, man, if only some of them knew just how much it took to get there. They're so close. They are so close. The point of giving up is usually at the point of the victory. And when we talk about mistakes or we talk about, whatever it may be, like a wrong direction or like course correction, you are so close at that point. It's almost an indicator when you slip up that you are close to the W, close to the victory, big time. It's just a reality. There's no, that's my life experience. I'm sure that you can share something in the comments about it, but I want you to look at the mistakes as part of the process. 2, what does your future process look like if mistakes are just that, if they're just part of the process? And then 3, I think about the end product all the time. We talked about this in the last few videos. When we look at the end product and we say, oh, whoop, whoop, there it is. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said whoop, whoop, there it is. It's part of the video now, is when we say, there's the end game. Here's the place I'm trying to get to. When you look at all the steps that it takes or all the out of bounds or whatever it may happen, getting to that place, that's your goal. My question is, how many more times would you do it all over again just to get there? Are the mistakes really that bad? Is the perception of failure really that tough when you see the gold at the end? And I think when we talk about reality being a delayed form of consciousness, the idea is that we go through a process in our own inner being before anything happens outside of us. Therefore, we're going through a series of questions, a series of checks and balances and all these things before we even get to saying something. As crazy as some things may seem when people say something or do something, there is a litany of checks and balances, mistakes, recourses, course redirection, all these things happening before we even get to an action or an expression in reality. I want you to take in your lived experience of humanity as a creative process, or a process that's part of your job, or a process that's part of your relationship, or rebuilding a relationship in your family. Whatever it is, the thing that you're trying to get to, the process that you're going through. Me making these videos, and I had a flub up with repeating something, and it sounded funny. The idea is, when you get to the end of that journey, when you get the thing that you want, and I know that you've gotten the thing that you want before. Don't sit here and tell me that you've never gotten what you've wanted, that you've never achieved anything, because you have. And when you've gotten there, would you say, okay, that's part of the process, I'm willing to do this again? And I think that's a big question we all need to ask ourselves before we go back into it, because for me, it's, well, would I be doing these videos if I know I'm gonna mess up again? Absolutely, yeah. It's part of the process. I thought about this actually today before I even got into this video. Actually, just before I got into this video, I said, I make music, I make films, and I'm usually acting on camera, or being a voice for a voiceover. Do I want to be giving away all of my presence on these videos and my voice away on these videos? Looking back on it all. And I think about my grandfather, I think about my grandmother, I think about the conversation I just had with my father last night. The answer is 100,000% yes. I would do it all, because I know and I believe that I would be absolutely honored to watch any video of my past ancestors or grandmothers or grandfathers just talking about life. It may not even be a lesson, just telling a story. And so if the process means that there's going to be a flub up, there's going to be this, that, or a third, fine, so what? Yeah, call it outside the line. Who cares? And here's the story that comes with this, and this is crazy. This is actually, to me, it's crazy. I know the word crazy is a little triggering, but for me, made a painting. I was in Milwaukee with some friends, made a painting. It was like a Jackson Pollock thing, you throw, the paint all over it. And I was in the process of making this album called Fast Times at Tromont High. We'll get into that another time. And I wrote fasts times on it and carried it out to the car. It was pretty hot out, and we were putting it in the car, and I accidentally pressed. I thought it was all dried up. I pressed on the top of the F, and my thumbprint was there, and I was like, oh no, oh no, 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 no. And I freaked out because I was like, I gotta throw this thing away now. I gotta throw it away. It's trash. There's a fingerprint on it. That was my thought at the time. I look at it now and I laugh. I smile. I think that's the coolest thing. That my thumbprint from over 10 years ago is somehow on this painting. What? To me, that's like a level of, that is just so cool to me. I think that's just a really dope thing to have that. I'm like, oh yeah, that's friggin' awesome. Whereas in the moment I was like, oh no, it's destroyed. Nobody, and I mean not a singular organic being on earth would notice that other than me. And now you know it because I told you. But it felt like a mistake at the time, and even sometimes when we think it's a mistake, it's not. It's really it just makes something cooler. And you can also say, if something goes out of line or goes off the rails, you can say, wow, this would be great to add to the story at the end of it. This is part of the story. It's part of the journey. It's part of the process. So I hope that you're able to look at anything that happens that is deemed as a mistake or a flub up or a mess up or a screw up as something that's part of the process, and then ask yourself at the end of it, is this worth it? And many times, at least for me, the detours, the stepping outside made it more than worth it. So there you go. I hope you got something from this video, something of value. Ask me any questions that you have in the comments, and I will answer them to the best of my knowledge. And we'll see you in the next video.